we go to another Brazil. So two countries in a single trip, that's a real miracle. Okay?
It's like coming to Princeton, New Jersey and
Like
Trenton,
this.
New Jersey.
Você estava hablando que es una experiencia social?
Sí, eso lo he entendido.
This, you understood this, okay? And the other good news that I have, you don't know, they know, you have a chance today to be guided by a local tour guide. I mean, local.
Loco, okay.
I am
Crazy.
1 in a million of people in this country living in favelas, working as a tour guide and speaking languages. And of course, it doesn't make me the best tour guide in Rio just because I live in a poor community.
Makes an amazing
of course
person.
not.
Yeah.
But in favela, yes, because that's my everyday life. So I'm not exactly here today to talk about the Brazil, the favelas that we hear from people that are watching the movies, that you see in the news, that are reading papers and books. Believe me or not, you have no idea what a favela is about until now. And you know why? Just because everybody talk about us. Movie makers from their studios,
Yes.
book writers and anthropologists from their apartments. Hey, but what about the people from the favelas themselves? They don't talk. No, we don't talk. We are not exactly in this country to talk. We are here to make the country grow, and this is it. Nobody want to listen to us. But I think that you want to listen to us. Do you?
Of course.
As you want to listen to us, I'm going to represent now 2.5 millions of silent voices living in favelas in my whole city. By the way, my people don't speak languages, so that's my mission to speak their voices. Thank you very much for listening to us, not only to me. Okay? And I live in the one we go. What a coincidence. Welcome to my house and welcome to my home. I live in the top because I have two ex-wives in the bottom. So, don't call my name loud downstairs because I don't want to die. Você? Entendeu até agora?
Sí, sí, lo he entendido.
Okay?
But in Europe, the government have for the people very poor
Yeah.
social buildings.
Social. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
Here,
social.
I don't understand
Yeah.
because the government permite, no sé, permite
Yeah.
aglomeraciones así de gente.
You don't have to understand. That's the system. You know, that's the system. And I know it's everywhere, you know, even in Germany, we have also poor side.
Yeah.
I can't compare to Brazil, you know, but it's being poor is being poor no matter where, you know. Maybe this tour is going to also help you, Jose, to understand the poor people in your country, you know, because maybe even having poor areas in Spain, maybe you never went there. Before.
Allí o hay viviendas sociales
Yeah.
o hay un
Thank you for coming.
salario mínimo.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I
know,
know it. I
In
know it.
India, in Delhi, they had because there's huge poverty, but they made a project. They said, okay, we're going to give you a home. And it was a test to see, because everyone has a certain mindset and mentality, right? So the people who were poor in Delhi, from the slums, they were putting them in homes, but they were miserable in those homes because they couldn't be the way they grew up.
There's a little detail, let me tell you,
Yeah.
on experience. If
Yes.
the government give the poor people, specifically in Brazil, a new home, but in another area, they all come back.
Yes.
Because it's kind of, it's generation thing.
Yes.
People have to make it by themselves, you
Yes.
know? I mean, I can't expect people living in a shack to adapt,
Yes.
living in a building like this.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's a little bit complicated. If you don't prepare the people for a brand
Yes.
new lifestyle,
Yes.
you know, they come back,
Yeah.
you know? I mean,
Yes, it's
we
the-
open it. It's okay?
It's the same problem in Europe with the gitanos.
I know it.
Los
I know
gitanos.
it. I know
But
it.
at the end, los gitanos, ellos tienen su place, su
Yeah, I
area,
know.
pero
I know.
inside,
I know.
inside the community.
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have, as you are making questions as we are talking about social assistance, I'm gonna explain some of the social assistance in my hood. Okay, I explain you. But by the way, do you know what means favela? The word, not exactly the neighborhood.
My friend said it's supposed to be said comunidad, not favela.
Yeah, but let me explain the word favela, what it means. Okay? Yeah, but let me explain you. I have to go back in time to 19th century, 1865. In 1865, Brazil was on the war against Paraguay for territory. But of course, we haven't Brazil yet black slaves from Africa. So they promised the black slaves, if you join Brazil to fight against Paraguay, we're gonna give you freedom and you're gonna give you a house. And of course, the slaves gonna be free. They joined the army and we went to the war. United States and Vietnam, 12 years, 50,000 people died. Brazil and Paraguay, only 6 days, 50,000 people died.
No, eso no lo he entendido. Fue en español.
Porque durante o que significa favela, porque durante el século XIX, 1865, Brasil estaba en guerra con Paraguay, había un promiso de libertar a los esclavos y ayudar en la guerra. Los esclavos ayudar en la guerra. Una guerra de 6 días, 50,000 personas murieron. Okay? So we won the war 6 days after, back to the city, and the slaves said, okay, we are free, but we have to work to survive. They work for the same families that had those people like slaves before, not like in America, not exactly for free, but for a little money. One of the reasons why the salary in Brazil is yet that little. There is some kind of slavery in Brazil yet, and I'm gonna show you that, okay? Good job, bad job, we got a job. Hey, you promised to give us a house. What are the houses? If you go one day to downtown, right behind the train station, there was a little favela called Providencia. Providence was the name of the black troop in Brazil, like in America, Buffalo Soldiers. Okay? They point up to the hills of that place and told the slaves, the black slaves, you can make your house up there. And they said, but we have no money to make houses. We came from slavery. You promised to give us the house. And they said, we gave you the freedom. You can make the house yourselves. They have no money to make the houses. They went up to the hills to sleep under the favela trees. Favela is a tree. Favela es una árvore. Por eso llamamos favela.
No entiendo.
Favela es una árvore, una planta.
Ah,
Por eso, porque los primeros esclavos no ganaron las casas, ganaron la libertad y tenían que dormir abajo de las favelas, de las árboles. Que llama favela. Por eso, that's when I say I go to the favela, come from the 19th century. Now we call community, okay?
Yes.
Okay? Also because if I say that I live in a favela, I lose my job.
Okay.
Or I cannot exactly get a job.
Yes.
So I say community. Everybody knows there is no difference. But when I say favela, it's not exactly a good word. For them,
Yes.
we don't give a shit.
Yes.
Okay? Você,
Politics.
o que não entendeu, o que não compreendeu, depois eu explico tudo em espanhol. Ok?
porque dices que no entendemos por qué.
Sí. No, yo voy a explicar todo en español solamente después. Todo lo que comprendes en inglés se capta y en la favela mismo andamos juntos. Yo explico todas las explicaciones. ¿Ok? But, tenta entender, ¿ok? So, and that was the first favela in Brazil. The name is Providencia. But now we have only in Rio 786 favelas. 786 favelas in Rio. Okay? And that's a lot. But no matter how many favelas we have in the city, when you say favelas in Rio, everybody imagines favelas being all the same thing and all equal. But I understand why. It's a stereotype. When they make movies about favelas, when they write books about favelas, when they talk about favelas, it's just about favelas. They don't discriminate. And that's one of the reasons why people imagine favelas in Rio being just favelas in Rio. But listen, favela is the same thing for the outsiders, not for me. For me, we are 786 completely different communities, and the only similarity is the architecture. Okay, it's very easy to locate a favela in Rio by the way people make the houses. That's pretty much the same. But deep inside, we have our difference. And that could be economic, social, geographic, political, any nonsense. Because I cannot expect Leblon being like Ipanema. I cannot expect Ipanema being like Copacabana. I cannot expect Copacabana being like downtown. So how can I expect one favela being like the other, for Christ's sake? We are different communities in different neighborhoods. And by the way, the name of my favela is Rocinha. And I don't know, in the whole country, Brazil, any other favela at least with the same name, for Christ's sake. We destroyed now 786 stereotypes in 3 minutes. Thank you very much. Okay?
Thank you for sharing this
Thank
with
you.
us. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to talk about the history of the favelas from the last 40 years up to now. But of course, before talking about the history, it's important to explain you one of those differences, okay? Geographically speaking, this is the south side, this is the rich side, and we're having here 3% of favelas. The biggest concentration of favelas, north and west, 97%. So, geographically speaking, what's the difference? I live in a favela here, south side, rich side, 3% side. Well, first of all, it's more comfortable because I live close to my job. More than 80% of the jobs in Rio are in the south side. So if I live in here, I can ride my bicycle, I can walk to my job, I can get a very quick transport. And it's more comfortable than people living in favelas north and west, 2-3 hours away from the job site. Second, here I have a feeling that I am integrated to the city, not segregated from the city. But of course, as I said, a feeling. Because I'm not exactly socially integrated. I'm just going to see the social differences now. Okay, but I'm integrated somehow in terms of infrastructure. For example, I can go to the same beach, just like the rich people, just like the tourists. And this is integration, of course. But when I say the beach, this is it. You're never ever going to see people from places like mine in the movies, in the theaters, or even at the squares, which completely for free. That's one of the reasons why we call favelas in Rio dormitory town, sleeping cities. We leave in the morning to work. We come back in the evening. We leave in the morning to work. We come back in the evening. By the way, we have no idea about the city style because we don't belong here. All we know in the city are the addresses where we work, you know, because we live and die in favelas. And this is it.
How can that be after so many centuries that it's still so separate?
Still is. I'm gonna finish the story, okay? But the reason why we have only 3% of favelas here in the south rich side, it has a lot to do with the history. Consider the favelas in Rio, in the south side, in the rich areas, the invasions. Many poor people move to the south side to make their houses in here and live close to their jobs. But the government destroy their houses and move everybody back north and west again. I mean, we live some kind of a little social apartheid. Close to the beach for the rich, far away from the beach for the poor. People keep coming all the time and they keep destroying their houses all the time. So that explains why the architecture of favelas long ago used to be completely different from now. Now houses made of rust or wood, houses surrounded by carbon papers, and houses covered by plastic. I mean, why should I spend my money doing a better house if they come tomorrow and destroy? So very simple houses. And on the other hand, there was no kind of public facilities or public infrastructures. There was no water, no electricity, no schools, no hospital, no post office, no ex-wife, oh sorry.
Which is good.
But in 1982, John Paul II, the Pope, came to Brazil for a visit, and in Rio, just like you, Mr. John Paul II decided to visit one favela. Have you been in Ipanema Beach?
No, not
You can see a favela on the hillsides of Ipanema Beach, on the hillsides of the block. That's the favela called Vidigal, and that's the one the Pope came to visit in 1982. So he went to that community for a ceremony, and the people from that community asked Mr. John Paul II, Mr. John Paul, can you please tell the government not to destroy our houses anymore, because we don't want to live so far from our jobs. For example, that favela, my favela, was supposed to be destroyed in 1986. They would move us to the west in a neighborhood called Santa Cruz, something like 2.5 hours away from the job site. But of course, John Paul II told the government not to destroy favelas in the rich south side of the city anymore, and they stopped it because of him. So chronologically speaking, in 1982, no more favela destruction in the rich side of the city because of the Pope. That explains why we have in here now only 3%, most of them stopped before. In 1986, the favelas received a document called right of property, giving the people definitely right in the land. One of the reasons why people start doing better houses because of the guarantee. In 1987, the end of dictatorship, democracy, and because of democracy, the favelas received public facilities and public infrastructures. Okay?
wow.
Okay, let me talk now a little bit about consequences. Because of the so-called document right of property, giving the 3% of the favela the chance to continue to stay here in the South, we can easily see that poor and rich people live kind of side by side. Maybe you don't know, Copacabana there are 78% of the most expensive 5-star hotels in Rio. But in Copacabana there are 7 favelas. What are they, Carlos? They are behind the buildings. 7 favelas over there. The one right there. I live in the biggest favela in South America. Population in my community is 160,000 people. But 50% of the people living in my community, they live in poverty level. I'm gonna explain you poverty level in Brazil. $20 a month for a family. 89 reals a month for a family. After hundreds of years. Let me answer your question slowly, okay? Surprise, surprise. We are between, that means 80,000 people living like that, 50%, but we are living between two very expensive neighborhoods. The first one you're gonna get now, it's called Gavia. Gavia, we consider Gavia to be the Norway of Rio, because Gavia has the best social welfare quality in the whole city. And if you wanna rent an apartment in Gavia, okay, it's up to you, because you're gonna pay average from 5 to 15,000 reals a month, and I mean it. On the other side of my favela, the place you're gonna finish the tour, there's another neighborhood named São Conrado, which is one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Brazil. And if you wanna buy an apartment there, it's up to you again, because you're gonna pay average from 5 to 25 millions of reals, and I mean it. I can show you the internet. There's an apartment now for 26 millions. I can show you here. Hey, but the question is, how can I explain you? The biggest favela in South America, 80,000 people living down and out between those two very expensive neighborhoods. How can I explain you that? It's easy. Welcome to Brazil. That's the explanation. The country of social gaps. But no matter how close we live, we know the city because we work in the city, at least the city address. But Brazilians don't know my places, and you know why? Brazilians never come to places like mine. I guide for 26 years now. I work for the same company for 26 years. Today I have 4 people from different countries. In 26 years, I mean, thousands of people. Thousands of people in 26 years. But do you know how many Brazilians in 26 years? I'm gonna tell you, maybe 65. But the question is, how come those people make moves about us, write books about us, talk about us, whatever about us, when they don't know us? As I told you at the beginning, today you're gonna know about a favela from an insider, not from an outsider. And if Brazilians know favelas or not, we exist, just like a city in the city, okay? As for my favela, the name is Rocinha. Rocinha is the biggest favela in South America, you know, like 4.5 square kilometers, and the population is 160,000 people. So that's a lot of people in a small place. And that's one of the reasons why the outsiders call my favela a rich favela and the city in the city. It proves again they didn't understand favelas at all. Because when they see a city in the city, I agree. But when they see a rich favela, come on, I disagree. Maybe they want me to feel happy, you know? But I'm gonna tell you for sure what we are. We are more self-sufficient. That's what we are. Because we're the biggest one in South America. Everything they have over there, we have 10 times more in my community. Because even in misery, you are more self-sufficient. 80,000 people, 10 times more. That's the balance, okay? When it comes down to business, then my favela used to be very powerful. And you know why? Because in Brazil, poor people spend money in poor areas. First of all, Brazil is a very expensive country. Maybe you know that. Rio is among the 10 most expensive cities in the world. And the salary in Brazil is something like $200 a month. So this money is not enough to afford in the city. Too little. But this money is enough to afford in poor areas. You know why? Because in poor areas, we are tax-free. So the consequence are the price is much lower than in the city itself. Okay? And if you have in my favela like 160,000 people available and all these people spending money inside, that's an excellent opportunity for a business. So my favela is full of business. You know, we have in my community more than 30,000 business. We have my community more than 25,000 people working inside. Hey, Carlos, more than 30,000 business. So that's a rich favela somehow. There's a huge circulation money inside your hood. Yeah, there's a huge circulation of money inside my place. Because after all, it's more than 30,000 business. But even so, it also makes my place a rich place. And you know why? Because more than 90% of the business are family business, survival business, small business, by the way. Okay? Putting the money together, it's a huge amount. Individual is a little bit of each. But somehow, time to break our hearts, surprise, surprise. Maybe that explain why there's the only favela in the whole world with banks. And they're gonna say, banks, Carlos? I heard from the grapevine, favelas are a dangerous place. Okay, that's what you heard. Not what I'm telling you. Of course, we have banks. Not only one, 4. 2 private, 2 federal. And those banks are there for more than 20 years, so it's not a test. What are those banks doing there, for Christ's sake? I mean, no social work. I mean, bank money, bank. That's the way it is. But the banks are there because even a favela where 50% of the population is very poor and 90% of the businesses are very small, this is yet one favela with more than 30,000 business. So those banks are very clever because they take the money of the favela inside the favela. For me it's comfortable because I don't have to go out of my place to go to the banks. I can do it right there, but it's much better for the banks, and you know why? I think maybe in the whole Brazil, those are the only banks never been robbed. Welcome to the only places in Rio that we can sleep with open doors. And I'm not exactly expecting you to understand so many bullshits about my place. How can I make you understand this? You're gonna make your own conclusion in the end of the tour, okay? Bring your money, bring your cameras, bring your fucking gold. Leave with it, I promise. Give me 5. Yes. Hey! Mommy and daughter?
Yes.
Mommy, hey, you better behave.